Martin from the Philippines. We're here in Real Talk Lifeline. So let's get to it. People watching the live or the replay, this one is called Talk Therapy and it's quick live. Feel free to comment down below if you could relate, or maybe you could share your own personal experience or life lessons, and it would help me and it might help someone else as well. So let's get to it. Talk therapy. What is this? This is a topic that has hit me in the past years of my life and also very recently, this term. So, just to clarify, here in the Philippines, therapy is it's not as common. So I have family members or relatives, friends in Canada or the US, and therapy over there is normal. It's part of their healthcare system, seeing a psychiatrist or someone like a counselor like that, it's normal. Here in the Philippines, back in the day, there was this stigma to it wherein if you went to therapy, you were seen as like some crazy person. So it's the year 2024, and fortunately, it's becoming more open. Now, not to that degree where it's normal to just part of your healthcare, part of your insurance, part of your benefits is you have mental health support. It is becoming more uh, brought to awareness now, which is a good thing. Now, back 10 years ago, 2014, I wasn't hearing much of it. And it will be related to my sharing in this topic today. So, talk therapy, some of you maybe you already have experienced this without you knowing it, but have you ever had a conversation with someone you were just sharing openly, and then after that experience, it felt very healing? So some of us we take it for granted. And if you had like a best friend growing up, someone you could confide in, maybe a stranger even, and then that helped you. It helped you just either get closure, it helped you heal, it helped you just get through that moment. You were going through a very hard time, or in that moment, intense. I would call that talk therapy or some form of it. So the first point, I'll share three quick points on talk therapy. So number one, it can save a life. So I was sharing like 10 years ago in 2014, I went through a 9-year relationship. So 2014, it ended. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was falling off a mountain or into an abyss. I really didn't know what to do with my life. And there was one person who happened to just listen. And this person listened to me for hours, like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, like that. For those who can relate, if someone ever did that for you, for me, that helped me with my sanity, that helped me with just processing emotionally. And I'll share in the other 2 points why it's also relevant or important. So it saved my life. I will not understate that. I'm very thankful for this person. Now, what I also realized is sometimes that person won't be there forever for whatever unforeseen circumstances may happen, right? Sometimes a person will be there for a reason, and then sometimes they'll just be there for a season, right, in our life, as I learned. Now, if they're with you for the rest of your life, then that's a blessing, right? So, someone was there for me and just listened, and it saved my life. The next point, verbal processor. So, I learned this term more recently, like in 2020, I believe, when I took my first Tony Robbins seminars. So it was Unleash the Power Within and then Date with Destiny. So I got feedback in one of the breakout rooms or in the group. And she was this woman from the US. And she said, Martin, such a verbal processor. So what does this mean in relation to talk therapy, right? When we speak it, then we start to make more sense. We start to understand it better. Now, if you don't have someone to talk to, one thing I learned that would help is also journaling. So you don't necessarily have to be talking to another person. You could just write it down. Now, if you do have another person that you can talk with, even more powerful, right? So why? When we speak it, it starts to register. So have you ever met a person wherein they had to repeat it? So they were learning something, right? They were watching a movie, learning a lesson, and they themselves had to say it first. And then you start to get it. So apparently I'm a verbal processor. That's how I learn or I realize things. Now the third one, the last one here is release responsibly. So what does this mean? This is something I learned from my life coaching training in 2019 onward, 2020, 2021, when I took even more training. So what does this mean is we release our emotions or whatever is in us, right? That's saying, I got to get it off my chest, right? Or just release it from your heart, right? From deep inside, whatever it is, versus suppressing it, and then it builds up like trash on the inside. So our inside, whatever you believe in, like the chakras, your soul, the vessels, all these things that we learn, right? We have like an emotional tank in there. All right, some people might say it's a trash can, septic tank. I was in a waste management company for my first job, and it fills up. It keeps filling up with emotions. Now there are good emotions in there, then there are bad ones. So I learned this: every emotion isn't good or bad, it just is, right? But it has a limit, right? So what I learned about releasing is release responsibly. And then my ice bath teacher, Marky, also says this: release frequently. So the way I learned to see it and feel it is it's like taking an emotional dump. Now we do it responsibly. Like you don't take a dump just in public, right? You go to a private, like a toilet or something like that. But when it comes to our emotions, talk therapy is a place where you could actually release those emotions. If not, they build up. And just like a trash can, once it's full, some of us, we just try to keep stuffing it down, right? Like, I'll push it down further. Kaya pa. Like, there's still space. But eventually it still fills up, and then it starts to smell, and then it starts to fester, right? The bacteria, whatever, the virus. So it's healthy to actually release it, right? Or empty it every now and then. So that's what I learned about releasing responsibly. So last things, going back to the topic of talk therapy, is something I learned about social conditioning, right? What that means is it's the way we grew up, it's our environment, programming from media, the movies, religion, everything like that. This is also the reason why women break up faster and then men break up harder. So the roles can be reversed. I'm not saying this is like, a stereotype just for women or just for men. It can be both, right? Depending on your experience. So a woman can get over a breakup faster, usually because of these points shared, right? They were able to process their emotions, they were able to openly share it. It was encouraged, right? And then they had a best friend or, you know, their BFFs or their girlfriends where they could release it or share it to. Now, for men, it could take harder. Again, roles can be reversed, but for men it could be harder because have you ever heard of these terms or these words said to you? Like a man of few words, or like boys don't cry, or man up, just keep it to yourself, right? Sometimes someone said that to you, like keep that shit to yourself. So the tendency is that person, man or woman, like if you were a girl growing up that way, you wouldn't share it, you wouldn't let it out, you wouldn't be able to process it, and then it just suppresses and builds up. So The last thing I would say here on talk therapy is it actually requires a safe space. It requires vulnerability and someone who knows how to listen. So I had to learn that from hard experience and training over time. What's a quick example of someone who doesn't know how to listen, right? It's like stereotypically, right? It's like your mom or your dad who says, "Oh, tell me the truth, I won't get mad." And then once you open up and tell the truth, they say, "Oh, you did that, you did that." So that's a person again who doesn't know how to listen. There was no trust. They didn't know how to handle the vulnerability, right? That was not a safe space. It could be judgmental or violent. So it won't work, right? That will actually cause trauma, not heal it. So to end this live, comment deep dive down below if you found the topic helpful. Talk therapy. This is actually what I do. Also recently it hit close to home, but I just listen to people who reach out. Again, I'm not here to invade your space or force anyone. If you feel like you're going through something, right? For some, it's a challenge. Some, they just want to get it off their chest. Comment deep dive down below. I'll reach out to you and I'll just listen first. Because that is what happened to me. Just an hour is a lot of power already. It could be a lot of healing for someone else. And then what I do in the deep dive calls, just one on one, is if you want a different perspective after letting it all out, then I can share that with you. And I've found that the people who I've done these deep dive calls with, they have breakthroughs, they get more clarity because first they were allowed to express themselves. Someone was just there to be able to listen to them like 100%, 1000%. And then they had an opportunity to just ask a question, to get unstuck. And maybe they got the answer not directly from me necessarily. It could have been an idea, could have been something random that they could test, and then they can move forward with their life. So that's it for the topic today, talk therapy. Thank you. I love you. And I will see you next time.